Hi, everyone. Welcome to Tru You podcast, a storytelling space for self discovery, where we use this safe and brave space to address racial trauma and healing for Black women through our own lived experiences. I'm Kelley, and this is my co host.
Hi, I'm Debbie, and we're a mother daughter team having real conversations about real issues shared by and for Black women because we have something to say.
Yes, we do. And hi, everyone. We are back. And I hope you have been enjoying this summer. It has been hot, but I have been enjoying it. Mom, how are you feeling this evening?
I am doing pretty good. I'm doing real good. Thank you for asking.
Good. I'm so excited about our special guest today. Today we have Dana with us. Hi, Dana. How are you feeling today?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to that you guys are having me today.
Great, great. So today's title is Stepping into Your Purpose. And I thought this title was great and fitting for so many reasons. But because we are talking today about Black women entrepreneurs, but not just entrepreneurship, this is also about when you realize your purpose in life and make that pivot to fulfill that goal. Dana has a beautiful story about her journey, and I am so excited that she has agreed to share with us today. So we'll just go ahead and get right into it. So, Dana, can we just start from the beginning on how you made the decision to step into your purpose and start your own business?
Well, actually, it was really unexpected to say the least. I have been in the field of doing design and retail for over 15 years, and I had some health challenges. And I was faced with a lot of emotions, to say the least. Basically, I was not able to work. And art is my background. That's what my degree is in. And I just spent a lot of time just at home painting. And honestly, I spent about 5 years dealing with some depression and just like wasted time because I did not know what I was going to do next. And I was actually invited to a community leadership academy by Provider Partners for Health. And it was just something I just wanted to do something. I had just been going to church and I just really wanted to do something different. And I went and they were talking, about starting businesses and different things like that. And I was like, oh, I can do something like this. And before I knew it, I was writing this business plan. And why I think about it a lot is because during those 5 years of praying and asking God for what is my purpose, that was constantly what my prayer was to God is what is my purpose. And so while I was doing this business plan, I was really just going back and forth with what exactly I wanted to do. I knew I loved to paint. I knew I loved people, but I didn't really put it all together. And through that, just with talking with people with my just background and experience, I was telling they was like, "Oh, you should teach a paint class at the church for Women's Day." And I was like, "Okay, I'll do it. I'll start there." And that was kind of like my first starting going into the business. But before I speak a little bit more about that, I forgot to tell you how I came up with the name. I mentioned it a little bit briefly when I was praying to God. I consistently asked Him for what is my purpose? Please, God, give me purpose. And my sister was talking to me. She was like, that is the name of your business. You are painting on purpose. So that was literally how I came up with the name of my business because I was doing it from a healing space, not from a monetary space. And that's how I continued to grow my business. And it was really exciting because my first class was with the church. So that was a blessing in itself to do it before God as Him giving me my purpose and me fulfilling it. So that's kind of how I initially got started, and it just kind of took off from there.
A beautiful story.
Thank you.
That is a beautiful story, and it's just it's such an honor to hear. Actually, a gift that you found your purpose asking God. Um, a business plan. Normally, business is separate from the church. I mean, even though church is a business,
Right.
they normally don't. It does not mix on many cases, and that's where you got your start, your journey, your peace. So praise God. And so I'm just sitting here looking at you, thinking about what happened recently at my surprise party.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I had a surprise birthday party, and it was a pleasure to meet you. Again, I didn't know what was going on. I just knew that there was water being carried into that other room, and I didn't know what was in that room. And so I'm asking, well, what's going on in there? And sure enough, the door opened, and there were all these easels and paint and just opportunities for us to express ourselves. And I loved it. And for you to say that your first class was in a church, what a joy to hear that as well. And so, as a Black woman, can you describe some of the challenges that you faced getting started with your business, or just a general story about anything that what were some of the challenges or the roadblocks as you got started in your business?
I think a lot of people don't realize or don't want to treat painting as quote unquote a business, as far as just even an entertainment piece. And I think one of the biggest challenges is, as a black woman, sometimes we often don't people don't often see equity in us. They don't necessarily understand why we charge what we charge, why we try to be professional, and sometimes people don't want to be professional. And it's more of a bias, as if this was a business you were calling up for the first time, or a big box realtor, or another service that may or may not be more popular. People tend to treat those businesses different. Small businesses deserve to be paid and to be treated just as professional as someone that's been in business for 10 plus or 20 plus years. So I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges. And also, just for me, for my business, I do my business from a space of healing. So for me, I try to create that healing environment with aromatherapy, with music, with those different things, to try to create what I like to consider a safe space. So a lot of people don't realize that I'm trying to create an experience. So I want people to see value in that, and not so much the monetary piece sometimes.
I know I really appreciated the ambiance of my party, the music in the background, and you're walking us through every step
Mm-hmm.
of that painting process. And I truly do see value in what you shared with us on that day. It was truly a healing space. I know it was for me. And so I just want to thank you for that.
I truly appreciate that feedback, because sometimes I get feedback, sometimes I don't. So it's always good to hear when people have positive experiences.
Absolutely. It was wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah, and I love the fact that even the aromatherapy, that's a different piece that you don't get in a regular those other businesses where there's paint and sip. And I think the key thing you said is it's from a place of healing, and even when you talk us through it, it wasn't like, a lot of people get so hung up on it looking right, and you're like, just relax, let just relax in the experience and just, paint or and get your mind off things. And I really felt that. I felt like, we could paint and take our mind off things. And I think that's when you go to other paint and sips, like they don't really have that ambiance. So I can appreciate that value, and that niche that you have when it comes to other businesses like that. And then also in terms of just in your journey, you said that painting like provided you healing from depression. And so I
Yeah.
think you looking into that pivot of like this can help as far as a, like you said, a healing piece is really special and something that is great that you can share with others. I like to pivot into like the beginning stages of nonprofits. Well, like I'm in those beginning stages, and it's been, a challenge at times. I would say an experience for me. It's kind of like a roller coaster. We have really great momentum highs, great highs, and some, intermittent stalls, and you get frustrated and some lows. So my question is, what are the things that keep you pushing? I don't know if you shared how long you've been doing this, but I know it's been some years. But what keeps you pushing forward in your business?
I think what is probably in the absolute forefront for me is I don't do this for anybody else. This is for me. And I think that that's what's the top priority with my business is when I created this, it was for me and solely me, not for financial gain. It was for healing for myself. So when I create that space for other guests, it's me creating the same room that I created at home to get me through those rough days. And when I explain to people, like, it doesn't have to be perfect, it doesn't have to look like this, or it doesn't have to look like that, it is truly because those were the words I was resonating with myself, that hey, this doesn't have to be perfect. This is purely for healing. This is purely for you to take your mind off of everything else that's going on and to focus in this moment, in this place in time, to create this piece of work. And I tell people all the time, I tell people when they get done, this is your masterpiece. When I hear people, complaining, or they don't think that this is a certain way, I think about God, and I think about being a masterpiece. And I think about no one can do what you just did because only you created it. So I try to keep that in the forefront. And then also, like, I know you mentioned to me, like, how long I've been doing it. Well, initially, I started off just doing small groups, churches, women's groups. And then I started to realize that I can branch out a little bit, but all of my businesses purely come from referrals. And so I have really tapped into senior facilities and senior homes and senior groups, working with them and creating a safe space for them to create. And art has a lot of benefits. It can lower your blood pressure. It works with motor skills for seniors as well. And so, what keeps me going is the fact that I can go to a place, and my oldest student was 90, in her 90s, and she was able to sit there and paint and had enjoyment in that space. So to know that I have taught ages all the way from 5, and now I can add up into their 90s, to do that is what keeps me going. And the fact that when I leave, they want to know when I'm coming back. And so that lets me know that what I'm doing in that hour or that 2 hours mattered. And even if it took their mind off of anything, it not only helped them, but it helped me. Like, I tell them, and I joke all the time, and I tell them when I come to class, I said, guess what? I'm painting with you guys today because I need a little bit of this art therapy too. So I think that that is really what keeps me going, is I am finally in a place where I know that certain things in certain spaces, I have to put myself first. And this business is allowing me to try to break that mode of depression, of feeling unsuccessful or feeling defeated. Because as black women, we sometimes struggle with feeling like we're not good enough. And so in those spaces, I'm allowed to be, I'm not the best artist in the world, but in that space, I am a teacher and I am providing, art to people that might not be exposed to it. And to see seniors that have never painted a day in their life laugh and joke and relax for an hour when they may or may not have a visitor for a month. Who knows? So that really, really matters to me that I can provide that for other people.
Oh, I love that answer.
Dana, listening to you sharing about um, your journey and the joy that it gives to you, and the mere fact that I think Kelley shared with me, you asked her, what are some of the things I like to do? And for you to get into a space to be able to draw, I'm assuming that you did free-handed, the young lady on the beach. I mean, is that something you knew how to do already? Did you teach yourself this? I mean,
Yes.
and I know you're an artist,
hmm
but how did you get to that point?
Well, to get you to that point, honestly, I my degree is in fine arts, but it's in interior design. And so
Okay.
for me, initially when I started teaching, I was just teaching painting. And then I noticed that sometimes it created frustration when people could not draw or mimic the final project like I did. Say for instance, we're painting flowers from scratch, and if you've never painted a flower before, it could be, frustrating. And so, in my journey, trying to make it the least stressful as possible for people that have never done anything, I started with drawing, and then sometimes I add in some stenciling. So it's a combination of freehand and combination of using images to create what the person needs or what they desire. And something that I try to do before every class is I try to find out more about the client, and then I also try to come with a purpose. So before each class, I try to tell them the purpose of why we're painting what we're painting. And that's what I think makes me stand out a little bit, is that we don't just come in and say we're painting cherry blossoms, for instance. We come in and we're painting cherry blossoms because we're representing the renewing of the spirit, and how cherry blossoms are fleeting in nature and they only come once a year. So we're talking about seasons of life. So I try to use metaphors and try to bring that experience in. And I was like asking Kelley all these questions about you because I was like, it's a birthday, it's not just a regular event. So I wanted to make it special. And that's something that I really like, to be personable with whoever I'm working with, because I don't want it to just, we painted and you left the room. I wanted you to remember it.
Well, I tell you, I did remember it. It was beautiful. I loved it.
And I still get people saying, "Oh, that was so great. We enjoyed it." I wanted to ask, I know you said you paint with seniors, but I know that you also paint with the youth, and so that there's an intergenerational aspect. So how does that differ when it comes to your teaching and just the experience in general?
Well, I teach at a community center, so I teach at Quinn, which is in Maywood. It is definitely different because I don't necessarily get to teach a structured class. So it's more along the lines of art. So whether it's learning about new artists, whether it's doing a craft, it is definitely different because the environment, I'm not necessarily able to do the aromatherapy, the music. I have to focus a lot on discipline and getting them to sit down and pay attention. But something that I really think is important is that I feel like I'm a bridge. So I'm dealing with the youth and I'm also dealing with the seniors. And I get to see both areas of life, and I get to see the challenges, and I also get to see the strengths. So it's a blessing for me to be able to touch both generations. It is definitely a challenge with the youth, and it can often be sad at times because we are getting away from hands on. We are getting away from doing things with our hands and drawing and painting. Everything is digital now. So it's nice to see them have to create, have to use those brains to do something on paper. So it's definitely an aha moment when you have kids that say certain things about what they've never done, and then to hear a senior say, I've never painted before in my life. So you do have those two moments where you are teaching from the beginning. And it's amazing to see the gap.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
No, no problem.
Hey, we're now at our last question. And this is where we acknowledge that through life as Black women, there are periods of racial trauma, and especially those who work within the community. And I just want to talk about how do we get to a place of healing, and I know this was part of your journey, Dana. I know it was part of your journey. But although we're not clinical experts, what do you think is needed as a community for racial healing?
I think the biggest thing for racial healing is more so, I would say, more businesses, more opportunities, and also meeting in the middle. I think that we avoid conversations that need to be had. I think that we tend to work in silos instead of working together. And that's just speaking from the African American community. I think we can do a better job as not seeing each other as competition and learning to work together. And then I also think that the other communities need to realize that we have value. And so we need to speak and have those hard conversations. And then also open up additional opportunities for people of color. I think that that's really important, is that we realize that we have value and we can provide different services for people. And I think often we get trapped in the I'm only going to work for Black people. With small businesses, we tend to only want to work with our people. And we oftentimes limit ourselves. And I think that we potentially can be closing doors without knocking first. Like not even knocking and trying to get that opportunity. We just skip that door. And I think we need to start expanding our horizons and getting past fear. And I'm speaking to myself too. I do this quite often in my class when I'm talking about purpose, that we need to start stepping out more on faith and realizing that things are not going to be easy. They never have been. And if we come to a point where we can get past racial bias, we will be a lot more successful.
One thing I wanted to ask too, Dana, is as your business was taking off within the community, what made your business different from, say, someone else that had the same type of business? I mean, were you on the internet, or was there information that was shared on the internet, or was it word of mouth? How did people find out about Dana's painting with a purpose?
Okay, a couple of things, but the first and foremost was favor.
Okay, I love it.
I feel like just having favor gave me what I needed to push forward. And I'll just share something with you. Honestly, when I started, I did not have the desire to be rich off of this like idea. This was, you finally got something. God is giving you this purpose. Let's do it. And let's do it well. And it was a little frustrating, I want to be honest, initially, because everybody wanted to do paint and sip. That was what was the title. People, that was what was popular. That was what was trending. And I was feeling like I wasn't getting enough business, so to speak. And then praying and talking to God, and I'm like, you know what? When people ask me, my response now is God gave me this. And this was not what He envisioned for me to do it as a sip and more of an entertainment piece. And once I got to that point and stopped comparing myself to other businesses doing the paint and sip, they're doing smoke and paint, and I started doing paint and worship and regular just paint classes for the senior classes. I started to see my referral business pick up. I do have a website, but I kid you not, 90% of my business is purely from referral. I started at Quinn, actually had a senior group there, the community center that I teach for the kids. I started there, and then I had a senior home in Maywood, which then turned into 5 to 6 senior homes that I now teach at. We kind of do them in a little bit of cycles. So it kind of, everything was referral for the most part. And to be honest, I really call it favor. I mean, I do have a website, I do advertise, but not as I should. And I think because I'm finally in a place where I'm comfortable with the rate of classes that I'm teaching. I want to say I've taught over 1,000 people. If I do count over the years, I want to say over 1,000 people I have taught classes for. And to just say that out loud is a blessing in itself. To think that, oh, it's been almost 8, 9 years ago. I didn't know what I was gonna do. So just to think that I've touched over 1,000 people with my services is just, it's mind blowing to me.
And I can see your place of, we talk about healing, your journey of healing. It has been throughout this entire conversation. It has been about healing, your healing.
Yes.
And so it was just so beautiful
Mm-hmm.
just how God has gifted you in this area. Not paint and sip, not smoke and sip, is just painting with a purpose
Yep.
and having that music in the background and the ambiance. And and believe it or not, you know this, you designed it with God in mind,
Yes.
God's people.
Mm-hmm.
So beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, yes, thank you. Well, I do have a question. I know you said you started, well, your background was interior design. Do you still do some work in interior design as well?
For, I would say more so for friends and family. I have the privilege of doing a lot of stuff in my home, and people are like, "Well, do you have paint?" My entire home is my artwork. I try to continue to have my own art in my own space. I would love to tap back into interior design more. I don't mind helping out friends and family. I love the business, but it's stressful. And I'm trying to, you know, continue to work on this. Not to say that pain on purpose cannot be stressful. It can be stressful too. But still knowing that even in that space, even if I have that hour 4 times a month, for instance, then it's all worth it for that.
I love that. I love that. Well, before we head out, I really would love, I know you said you're mostly referral, but I don't want to leave without making sure that people know where to find you if they want to have their own private class, if you're available. I know you're busy, so, but, and I'll also have it in our description as well. But what is your email for everyone, or how can they reach you?
Sure. My email address is ipaintonpurpose@gmail.com. And my website is the same. It's www.ipaintonpurpose.com.
Thank you so much. We're headed towards the end of our episode today, and it just went so fast. I really enjoyed talking with you, Dana. Thank you so much for spending this time with us and sharing your journey and your experience. And I really hope that it touches someone out there who's listening. It has touched me, and just inspires someone else to tap into their purpose. Thank you all for listening. And we ask that you stay tuned and continue to listen to our podcast, Tru You. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you next month. Bye, everyone. Thank you, Dana.
Thank you so much.
Tru You is brought to you by Radiant Vessels and sponsored by Proviso Partners for Health. Funds for Tru You, a storytelling space for self-discovery, were received from the Oak Park River Forest Community Foundation.